I knew it was coming. Honestly, I'd been expecting it for weeks. So when Marlene from HR invited me into the small glass-walled conference room for a quick chat, I didn't flinch. I just grabbed my notebook, nodded, and walked in with the same calm I'd used for a routine meeting. On the other side of the table sat Greg Tolman, my boss of 5 years, with that plastic corporate sympathy face. Arms crossed too tight. Tie a little too straight. He never was good at hiding nerves. Marlene spoke first. Kyle, after 12 years with NXT Logic, the company's decided to restructure some of our departments. This includes reallocating certain roles in engineering. I just nodded. Uh-huh. She slid the manila folder across the table. We value your contributions, and this decision is strictly business. You'll find the terms inside: 2-month severance, healthcare coverage for 60 days, and a letter of recommendation from Greg. I didn't reach for the folder. Just looked at Greg. He cleared his throat. You've been a key player, Kyle. But with the new direction of our platform, we're focusing more on product integration and less on infrastructure optimization. Translation? We took your work, made it public, and now we don't need you to keep improving it. I nodded slowly. I understand. They both blinked. I could tell they were bracing for protest. Maybe even a scene. But I wasn't going to give them one. Because truth is, I already knew. I knew when my build framework got demoed at a conference without my name anywhere on it. I knew when my internal design doc showed up in Greg's slide deck 3 weeks after I'd shared it privately. And I definitely knew the moment he called a surprise sprint review and pitched my own timeline as his idea. I'm not a loud guy. I don't storm into rooms or yell at people. But I pay attention. I read silence. I notice hesitation. And lately, there'd been a lot of both. I took the folder, thanked them for their time, and stood. Anything else? Greg gave me a weak smile. We'll need your laptop and badge by end of week. Not a problem, I said. You'll get them Friday. On my way back to my desk, I passed the design board we used for feature planning. It still had my diagrams pinned to the wall. My post-its. My handwriting. I stopped for a second, just to look. Not out of nostalgia, just to mark the moment. That afternoon, I boxed up my personal things. Not many. My dad's old pocket calculator, a worn coffee mug from our first product launch, and a framed photo of me and Lisa at the company's 10th anniversary party. She'd insisted I bring it in back then. Said it made my desk look more human. I looked at that photo for a while. Funny thing is, I used to think Lisa was my anchor. Someone outside the code and the late nights, someone solid. Turns out she was closer to the fire than I knew. But I'll get to that. For now, I just packed the photo last and shut the box. No dramatics. No anger. Because what they didn't know, not Marlene, not Greg, not Lisa, was that I'd started planning for this moment the second I stopped being naive. And trust me, I had a plan. You know that feeling when something clicks in the back of your mind, but you're not ready to admit it out loud yet? That was me. A few months before the layoff. It started small, little gaps in logic. Like how Greg somehow always knew the angle I was planning before I said a word. Or how every idea I was still roughing out at home somehow made its way into planning meetings 2 steps ahead of me. At first, I thought maybe I was just slipping. Burning out. Seeing ghosts. But I've always trusted data more than feelings. So I watched. Quietly. Patiently. And I started noticing patterns. The things I discussed only at home, stuff I hadn't even shared on work email yet, somehow kept showing up in Greg's conversations. Like clockwork. One night, around 1 a.m., I went into the kitchen for water and saw Lisa's phone on the counter, lit up with a preview. Greg's name. Not Greg Tolman. Not boss. Just Greg, first name, no last name, no work title. Strange, the message said. You think he suspects anything? I stared at it for a second. My hands didn't move. My heart didn't race. I just stood there, letting it sink in. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I unlocked her phone. Was it right? No. Was it necessary? Absolutely. The chat history was long. Weeks of messages. Some were work-related, sure. But buried between them were things you don't send a colleague. Things you don't send a friend. Compliments. Late-night jokes. Inside talk about our team. Photos. Him at some conference. Her in our living room. And then, hotel bookings. Screenshots of calendars. A selfie of the two of them together, in a suite with wine glasses behind them. The caption? Finally alone. I don't even remember putting the phone down. I sat on the couch for over an hour, just staring into nothing. Not angry. Not sad. Not even shocked. You know what the weirdest part was? Relief. Because finally, I knew I wasn't crazy. The paranoia? The gut feeling? It had a name now. Two names, actually. Lisa. And Greg. So yeah, they were sleeping together. That much was clear. But that wasn't the part that cut the deepest. What hit hardest was what came next. A message from Lisa, sent late one night. He's almost ready to ship the new build. I'll give you the specs. My own wife. Feeding my boss private details. My timelines. My architecture maps. Greg had promised her something, I could tell. Money, maybe. A job. A future. The classic fantasy. The man at the top, whispering just a little longer while handing her champagne and scraps of attention. And she bought it. She thought Greg was going to leave his wife, start over, and bring her with him. Build a life, probably using my work to fund it. I remember leaning back on that couch and laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so dumb it hurt. They thought I'd never see it. That I'd just quietly fade out while they cashed in. They had no idea. So I made backups. Copied the entire thread. Screenshotted messages. Emailed myself logs. Every message. Every late night. Strategy text. Even the hotel invoice. Charged to a corporate card. That's when my plan changed. Before, I just wanted to leave with dignity. Now, I wanted to make sure they learned, the hard way, that some people may stay quiet. But that doesn't mean they're blind. I never threw a chair. I never yelled. I never even asked her why. Because I already knew. And the thing about betrayal is, once it's clear, you stop needing explanations. What you need is clarity. And a plan. So that's what I started building. First, I made copies of everything, clean, chronological, and ironclad. Messages from her to Greg. Attachments she sent. Screenshots of hotel confirmations, the dinner reservations, even their inside jokes about me. It was all there. I didn't confront Lisa. I didn't accuse. I didn't slam doors or demand answers. No. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. Said good night before bed. Played my part. Because what I needed more than closure was time. Time to lawyer up. I found someone sharp. Referral from a buddy in Boston. The kind of attorney who doesn't blink when the stakes are high and NDAs are involved. We met in private. I brought everything. He didn't ask how I got it. Just asked what I wanted. Options, I said. And protection. We drew up a plan. Divorce wasn't off the table, but it needed to be smart. Strategic. Most of our accounts were joint. But not the trust I'd set up for my dad's inheritance. Not the patents I filed before marriage. Not the prenup Lisa forgot about when she followed me across states for my career. Turns out, when you write code and legal safety nets, people tend to underestimate you. While the legal side simmered, I turned my attention to something else. Opportunity. Greg had spent the last 2 years trying to push out a smaller firm, Solnix Systems. Bright engineers type product. Not flashy, but dangerous to him. He saw them as a threat. I saw them as an option. So I made a call. Didn't pitch. Just asked for coffee. I met with their founder, Jenna, in a tiny corner cafe outside Raleigh. I told her I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for a place where ideas weren't stolen, and trust actually meant something. She didn't blink. "I know who you are," she said. "And I know who he is. We've been waiting for someone to tip the scale." Turned out they'd been reverse engineering some of our work to compete, but always came up short because they lacked the core. The architecture. My architecture. "You bring that here," Jenna said, "and we go public within 2 years. No smoke. No mirrors." I nodded. Didn't promise anything. But I left that meeting knowing one thing. I wasn't going to fade out quietly. Lisa thought she was trading up. That Greg was her ticket. But what she didn't realize is, Greg's empire. It ran on the work I built. And the day I walked out was the day it started to bleed. I kept going. Quietly. Set up a private LLC. Shifted assets. Logged every late night she didn't come home. Had receipts for everything. The truth? It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like discipline. I was building something bigger than a reaction. I was building an endgame. One that didn't require shouting. Just execution. You ever get that feeling, when something just clicks? That cold, sharp moment when all the quiet things you've been sensing finally line up. That was me, in my garage, 2:37 a.m., staring at an internal memo I was never supposed to see. It was buried in a shared drive. Misnamed. Tucked inside a folder marked Q2 cleanups. And it said everything. See, I'd spent over a year developing the distributed logic framework that eventually powered half of our infrastructure. The backbone of our scalability. The very thing that let our platform go toe-to-toe with giants. And I'd been told, repeatedly, that the company was handling the patent filing. Legal was on it. Just a formality. Only they weren't. Because Greg never filed it. The memo spelled it out in plain English. No attribution on pending architecture. Awaiting transition post-restructure to file under company IP. Translation? They were pushing me out first, then claiming the tech as their own. Greg wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was stealing my life's work. And Lisa? She'd been feeding him my dev logs, my prototype builds, everything. The man was using our marriage like an unsecured drive. I remember just sitting there, frozen. Not angry. Not hurt. Just clear. Okay, I thought. Let's rewrite the ending. So I got to work. I rebuilt the framework. From scratch. On my own hardware. On my own time. Improved it. Tore out the clunky middleware, redesigned the data distribution layer, and pushed the efficiency threshold by 38%. It was leaner, smarter, and frankly, light years ahead of what I'd built at the company. I documented everything. Git logs. Timestamps. Video recordings of every session. I even saved the coffee receipts, just in case anyone asked what I was drinking when I rewrote their future. Then I filed. Patent application under my name. No company ties. No shared credit. Just Kyle Bishop. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my attorney at first. I wanted it airtight before we pulled the pin. And when it was done, when the confirmation email came in and I saw the words, "Application received," I just sat there and smiled. Because now it wasn't about what they took. It was about what they couldn't touch. Lisa thought she'd hitched her wagon to a rising star. Greg thought he'd stripped me of everything useful. But they missed the one thing that mattered. I build things. And this time, I was building without them. The next morning, I sent a simple message to Jenna at Solnix. "The algorithm is mine. Let's talk." She replied in under a minute. "Come in today. And bring a lawyer." Solnix wasn't a flashy company. No glass towers. No catered lunches with truffle oil. Just smart people in hoodies solving hard problems in a converted warehouse that smelled like fresh paint and ambition. I liked it the second I walked in. Jenna met me at the door. Firm handshake, no small talk. She led me straight to a conference room with 2 lawyers, 1 whiteboard, and a pitch deck already waiting. The room buzzed, like they already knew this was big. And it was. They'd seen the early patent filing, knew exactly what I'd built, and more importantly, they knew who didn't own it. "So," Jenna said, flipping the first slide, "let's skip the dance. You're not here for a job. You're here to build something with us." Then she slid a folder across the table. Inside, 3 pages that changed everything. CDO offer. Equity. Significant. Control over product roadmap. And exclusive rights to license the algorithm on my terms. I read every line. Twice. It was smart. Aggressive. Exactly what I would have written myself if I were in her chair. "You understand," I said. "This will make us public enemy number 1 over at Apex." She smiled. "Kyle, they already wrote you off. They don't know you're about to own the next 5 years of their roadmap." She was right. They had no idea. Greg thought he buried me. Lisa probably thought I'd sulk for a year and beg for closure. What they didn't know, I'd already closed that chapter. Quietly. Strategically. And now I had the pen. I signed. We shook hands. And just like that, my future was no longer tied to the man who stole from me, or the woman who sold me out. The lawyers took over, formalizing the licensing deal. I insisted on a clause. Any attempt by Apex or associated parties to contest the patent would result in immediate legal action and full audit disclosure. They raised their eyebrows. "Expect trouble?" Jenna asked. "I expect scorched earth," I said. "But I'm ready." We finalized everything that afternoon. And when it was done, Jenna handed me a key card. "You start Monday. Corner office. Engineering wing. The space is yours." I left Solnix with 1 folder in hand and 1 thought in my head. They thought I'd break. But all they did was give me a reason to rebuild, better, stronger, and this time, without anyone looking over my shoulder. Next stop. Letting Greg and Lisa know exactly who they underestimated. It took me 3 days to put the file together. Not because I didn't already have the evidence, I had plenty. Screenshots. Call logs. The hotel receipt with Lisa's name and Greg's company card. Emails forwarded from her, secret, account to his work address. And the cherry on top? A shared Google Doc labeled Phase 2 Strategy, where she literally outlined my project structure, bullet points and all. 3 days, because I wanted it airtight. Because when you pull a pin like that, there's no going back. Her name was Claire Matheson, Greg's wife. Married 22 years, 2 kids in college, active in half the fundraising boards in the state. We'd only met a couple times. Always polite. Sharp eyes, never said more than she needed to. And I had no idea how much she already suspected. I debated sending it through a lawyer. Through a burner. But no, this needed to come from me. Plain, direct, honest. No performance. No revenge speech. Just truth. I created a folder. Shared trust, what you deserve to know. And I uploaded everything. Labeled, timestamped, chronological. No accusations. Just facts. Then I wrote the message. Claire, I'm sorry you're receiving this like this. You don't know me well, but I know you deserve to know the full picture. The attached folder contains communications between my, now former, wife, Lisa, and your husband, Greg. This includes personal and professional exchanges that overlap with proprietary data I developed at Apex, which your husband later claimed as company property. I thought I was losing my marriage. Turns out, I was also losing my work. I know this isn't easy to read, but I figured lies that go unspoken just grow teeth. You deserve the truth too. Kyle. I didn't reread it. I just hit send and sat there in silence for a full 5 minutes. No music. No phone. Just me and the sound of a man who finally stopped pretending everything was fine. I didn't expect a reply. Honestly, I didn't care if she responded at all. But I wanted her to know that I didn't walk away quietly because I was weak. I walked away quietly because I had proof and patience. That night, I poured a drink, stared out over the city, and when my phone buzzed at 11:03 p.m., I already knew who it was. Claire. The message was short. Thank you. I had a feeling. But not like this. Not this deep. I'll take it from here. And that was it. No drama. No sob story. Just another person waking up to the fact that the people they trusted were playing a different game all along. Funny thing about betrayal, it doesn't shout. It whispers behind your back until you hear it for yourself. And now? They were both about to learn how loud the truth can get when you finally give it a voice. The first sign that the fire had caught? A LinkedIn notification. Someone tagged me in a post I hadn't expected. Looks like Apex's next-gen platform hit a licensing wall. Release postponed indefinitely. It was subtle, phrased like industry gossip. But I knew better. Behind that post was chaos. Because the algorithm they were counting on, the one I'd spent 4 years building, now legally belonged to me. And me alone. The patent was locked, the licensing agreement with my new company exclusive, and any use of it without permission? That was called infringement. And trust me, our lawyers were already watching. Within 48 hours of me walking out those glass doors, the house of cards started shaking. I heard from Miguel, a back-end dev still at Apex, who messaged me privately. Greg's been in conference rooms all day. Legal. Finance. PR. He looks like he aged 10 years overnight. I didn't gloat. Okay, maybe for 5 minutes. But mostly, I felt calm. Settled. Like I'd finally put the weight down. See, Apex didn't just lose a guy. They lost the guy, the one who held the structure together. And when I left, I didn't just take my name off the project. I took its future with me. You can't reverse engineer integrity. By Friday, word had spread. Their release window, gone. Marketing materials? Pulled. Investors? Nervous. The valuation dipped. Then dipped again. And Greg? He was getting calls from board members. From partners. From Claire. Because Claire, after receiving that folder, hadn't stayed silent either. I didn't know the exact details, but let's just say Apex's CEO wasn't sleeping at home anymore. And if he thought she'd go quietly, he underestimated the wrong woman. Meanwhile, I was busy settling into the new office, full floor, corner view, team that actually listened. We weren't a corporate dinosaur, we were lean, fast, sharp. And we had the IP that made Apex relevant. Every day they stalled was another day we moved forward. I still remember walking past a newsstand that weekend and seeing the headline on a business journal. The cost of loyalty, how Apex lost its lead engineer and their lead product. There was no photo, no mention of me by name. But I stood there a while. Then I bought 3 copies. One for me, one for legal, and one, sealed, unread, for Lisa. I wasn't planning to send it, but part of me liked knowing it was there. A silent reminder that while she bet on someone else's promises, I bet on truth. And truth? It pays out long term. I didn't plan for it to go public. Really, I didn't. All I did was send a message, short, calm, clear, to Claire, Greg's wife. Attached were the files, the hotel receipts, the message logs, even that email where Lisa forwarded him a copy of my draft specs 2 weeks before the Apex pitch meeting. Subject line? You deserve the truth too. I expected silence. Maybe a quiet divorce. Maybe nothing at all. But Claire lit a match. And she didn't just burn bridges, she brought a flamethrower. Monday morning, an anonymous account leaked screenshots to a private industry Slack. By lunchtime, whispers had turned to emails. By Tuesday, the entire investor board of Apex had seen them. By Wednesday, one of the VPs asked during a call, flat out, "Did we lose our product edge because our CEO was sleeping with an employee's wife?" No one answered, because by then, Greg had already been asked to take a step back. Apex PR released a vague statement. Effective immediately, CEO Gregory Madsen will be on temporary leave pending internal review. But the damage wasn't internal anymore. Clients started pulling meetings. One canceled a 6-figure contract on the spot. They didn't want their name tied to scandal. That word showed up everywhere now. Scandal, and not just in business blogs. A tech columnist from Seattle ran a piece titled, "When the CEO Sleeps with the Source Code, Apex's Innovation Crisis." Yeah, that one stung. And Lisa? She lost everything. She was never formally with Apex, but after the story broke, no one would touch her. Word spreads fast in tech. The one who sold out her husband for a spot at the table. Turns out the seat wasn't even reserved. Greg ghosted her. I found out from Claire, actually. She sent one line in a follow-up message. He says she's not who he thought she was. Ironic. Yeah, that's one word for it. The fallout was ugly. For them. But me? I didn't gloat. I kept my name out of it. While everyone else ran damage control, I kept building. The best revenge? Letting their collapse speak for itself. While you quietly build something they can't touch. I heard Lisa moved in with her sister. No job. No plan. She tried calling a few times. I didn't pick up. Because sometimes, the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. It started with a text. "Kyle, can we talk? Please." I stared at it for a while. Not because I didn't expect it, I did. Eventually, they all try to crawl back when the fire spreads further than they imagined. But it was the timing that struck me. 3 weeks. That's how long it took her to reach out after the collapse. 3 weeks since Claire sent the wrecking ball through Greg's life. 3 weeks since Apex's stock took its biggest hit in years. 3 weeks since Lisa realized that her new life wasn't coming. I didn't reply. Then came the call. I let it ring. Watched the screen light up with her name. Didn't even flinch. She tried again 2 hours later. Then again the next morning. Finally, a voicemail. "Kyle, I made a mistake. Greg lied. He told me things that... God, I was so stupid. I thought he'd help us, help me, and I didn't think it would go like this. I want to explain. Please, can we meet? Just once." It was almost comical. Explain? What was left to explain? That she knowingly fed my work to a man who cut me off the team I built? That she lied to my face every night? then sold pieces of my trust like they were nothing? That she was planning a new life with him, while I was still clearing space in the garage for a second family car? No. She didn't want to explain. She wanted to rewrite the story. But it was too late. I already had the final draft. That afternoon, she sent one more message, this time a wall of text. Everything from, "I was lost," to, "I never stopped loving you." A greatest hits album of emotional bargaining. Blame shifted, guilt sprinkled, and just enough nostalgia to pretend it was a love story gone wrong. I read it. All of it. Then I typed back one line. "Please contact legal. I don't handle traders personally." And I blocked her. That's it. No monologue. No second chances. No cathartic scream. Just silence. Because closure isn't something you ask for. It's something you decide on. She had made her choice, eyes wide open, heart closed off. She walked out thinking she was trading up. And now? She couldn't even get a reply. I didn't hate her. That would have meant I still cared. But I was done carrying that weight. I had a new team, a new role, a company that valued every blueprint I ever drew. Let her learn what it feels like to be replaced. I already had. Miami? Morning. The elevator hums quietly, the faint smell of fresh coffee in the air. I ride up to the 18th floor. On the left, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the bay. On the right, my office door. And right there, on brushed steel, Kyle Morgan, Chief Technology Officer. Sometimes I still pause before walking in. Not out of disbelief. Out of quiet satisfaction. That nameplate, it's not about the title. It's about everything it took to earn it. Inside, my team, familiar faces, the same engineers who once believed in me when I barely believed in myself. They left with me. No promises, no contracts. Just trust. We started from scratch. No flashy investors. No visionary slideshows. Just work. Code, testing, whiteboards full of ideas, late nights, first launches, real feedback. Now, our product is topping industry charts. The company is showing up in Forbes. And me? Listed in Top Tech Leaders Under Pressure. Just last week, during lunch, Joe leaned over and said, "Do you realize what you did? We didn't just climb back. We burned down the ladder they tried to kick us off." I smiled. Because yeah, he was right. This wasn't revenge. This was resurrection. And that hits harder than anything I could have done to them. I haven't seen Lisa since the fallout. Word is she left the company. Things with Greg? Didn't work out. She tried applying elsewhere, but with that kind of reputation? Not easy. I don't check. I don't ask. That chapter closed a long time ago. My story lives here now. Every morning starts with coffee on the balcony. With investor calls that ask for my time, not demand it. With updates from a team that says this is the first place they've ever felt truly valued. Sometimes people ask if I regret anything. Sure. I regret not walking away sooner. I regret thinking love meant tolerating betrayal. I regret ever needing to prove myself to people who were too small to see my worth. But those days are done. I'm not chasing approval anymore. I'm not waiting for someone to see me. I know who I am. And every time I open my office door and see that nameplate, simple and sharp, I remember. She thought I'd break. I built an empire instead.